Hi, I'm Natalie. I'd like to share with you an easy way to upcycle an older unwanted shirt into a child's dress. This is my daughter Agnes wearing a large men's shirt that's been gifted to me for the project. Start by laying your shirt out on a flat surface, smoothing out as much of the wrinkles and creases as possible so as not to distort your fabric whilst you're tracing and cutting your pattern. To make our pattern, we're going to use a dress that already fits your child. We need to have a similar fabric, so this one's no good because it's too stretchy, made of a jersey, and our shirt isn't. So I'm going to choose one with no stretch and line it up. If you like to keep the collar, then you can trace from the top using the shoulder seams. If not, move it down. I'm going to use the top button as the top of my dress. Smooth the dress out, and then you're going to trace around your dress. You can just go from the waistline straight down to the bottom of the shirt to create a simple A line, or I'm going to follow the structure of this dress and make a separate top and a gathered skirt. Once you're happy with the position of your dress, you're ready to trace around it. I'm using a dressmaker's chalk, but you can use any chalk or washable pen or pencil that's easy to remove from your fabric. Make sure you leave around 1.5 centimetres for your seam allowance. As I've chosen to make the bodice and the skirt as two separate pieces, I've drawn just around the bodice, and then I'm going to join both sides with a straight line and then adding in a slight curved line for the front. Now it's time to cut out the fabric. I'm going to go straight across from the side, leaving the bottom section of the shirt for the skirt part of the dress. Carefully cut out the rest of your fabric. You can keep the sleeves and collar section for another project. The back of this shirt has a pleat that I would like to keep, so I'm going to turn it over and then carefully pin it in place. Now I'm going to cut out the curved section on the front of the bodice. This means once our dress is finished, it will lay flat across the tummy area. Now I'm going to draw in the front neckline using the original dress as my pattern. Happy with that, so now it's time to cut it out. You can now move on to turning down your seam allowance in the neckline and sleeves. Turn your fabric over and carefully turn down your 1.5 centimetre seam allowance. You can either finish this with a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine, or if you carefully double fold it, you could use a straight stitch. For a neater finish, I'd recommend double folding and using a straight stitch. Once you have your seam allowance pinned in place, don't forget to separate the front piece by undoing the buttons. Partway through my project I came across some yellow ribbon that I thought would be nice to use as bias binding instead of the overturned seam allowance. For this method, it's best to cut away the 1.5 cm seam allowance from the neck and armhole areas. Fold your ribbon in half lengthways and use a cool iron to press in the crease. You're going to encase the raw edge of the fabric in the ribbon. Line up the ribbon with the back side of the fabric with the crease in line with the raw edge. Carefully pin in place, ready for sewing. Here you can see I have the ribbon pinned in place ready for sewing. Using a straight stitch, attach the ribbon to your fabric. With your ribbon now attached, fold down the top half and stitch in place using a straight stitch. Oops, I've lost my needle. I'll need to cut that free and sort it out. My ribbon's attached and looking nice and neat, apart from this tiny crease which will come out with a press. Here's my bodice pieces with the ribbon in place. I didn't have quite enough yellow, so I used some other colours from my stash. Match your bodice pieces right sides facing. Pin the side seams and shoulder seams in place. Sew your seams together using a straight stitch followed by a zigzag stitch to protect the raw edges. If you have an overlocker, you can go ahead and overlock your seams. Now you can turn your bodice right side out. Next we can make the skirt part of the dress. We're going to use the bottom half of the shirt and gather it to fit the bodice part of the dress. To do this, we need to create 2 rows of straight stitching along the sections of the shirt. Do not backstitch your threads in place as they need to be loose to allow for the gathering. Here I have my 2 rows of stitching in place ready to be gathered. Take the 2 top threads and gently pull so that the fabric puckers and gathers. Pull from both ends and evenly distribute the gathers. Line up the skirt section with the bodice section, distributing the gathers so that the size of the skirt matches the size of the bodice. Repeat this process, matching the skirt sections to the bodice sections. The bodice and the skirt can now be pinned together, ready for sewing. Undo the buttons and match the sections right sides together. Take your time and adjust the gathering where you need to. Work from seam to seam so that the gathers can be distributed evenly. Pay special attention when matching the placket areas of the buttons. Almost done. Sew your seams using an overlocker or a straight stitch followed by a zigzag stitch to seal your raw edge. Nearly finished. Now it's time to tidy up. Here you can see the gathered stitches. Need to remove these. All done, but I'm not sure about those buttons. Agnes has a better idea. She's been raiding my tin. here's the finished dress. I really like Agnes's choice in buttons. Good luck with your project. Bye!